What is a gyro? It's this. End of video. Bye. If you live in North America, a gyro is this, the Gyro S, or this, the gyro. But in other parts of the world, it can look like this, or this, 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 or this. And this here is arguably the first one that wasn't a prototype, that you've probably never heard of, and wasn't made by Honda. But we will get into that. Truth be told, the gyro has been made in Japan since 1981 in some form or another, and is still made today. It is a small vehicle that helps with deliveries in Japan daily. You've probably seen one in the background of a movie, cartoon, or if you've been there running down the street. Yet it is not a super widely known vehicle other than in Japan, or if you are a bit of an enthusiast. So how did it get here? Why does only Honda make them, and why didn't it take off anywhere else in the world? Let's dive into that. So how did this all start? George Wallis, motorcycle rider and inventor, came up with the odd concept for the gyro. A three-wheeled trike that has the ability to lean over in turns, allowing it to turn like a motorcycle with the stability of a trike. After some designs and prototypes, he patented a design in 1966. This is part of the original patent here. According to research, he initially made this concept as a bicycle and then sold them under the Raleigh name, although I am unable to find an image of this. After making a few prototypes of this concept out of mopeds, BSA entered the picture. They bought the patent to use, although Wallis retained the rights to the design and brought a moped to the UK market called the Ariel 3. They released it in 1970. It was a 49cc two-stroke moped with a centrifugal clutch. It was a flop, partly due to them butchering George's design and not taking input from George and his team on how to fix the poor handling traits it had because of it. Through my research, I saw the nickname Granny Killer, or Trike of Terror, for the moped, inferring it was not a very confidence-inspiring ride. It sold for a short 3 years. BSA was in financial trouble already, and this was one of their last big bets. They were trying to produce 2,000 units a week, and were banking on this being way more popular. BSA went bankrupt in 1973, and the rights of the design went back to George. It is said that the Ariel 3 was one of the final nails in the coffin of BSA. George was also in talks with Daihatsu, who made the 1974 Daihatsu Hello, which was more like a scooter than a moped, and had a 49cc two-stroke automatic or electric motor. These sold only in Japan, and they did sell quite a few, but Daihatsu got out of the scooter market shortly after this. 5 years after this, George was approached by Honda asking him for the license to his patent. He instead sold them his whole company, and that begins our tale of Honda's monopoly on tilting three-wheelers. Only a few years after buying George's patent, Honda released the 1981 Honda Stream NV50. It was the start of a short-lived personal three-wheeled scooter in the Honda lineup. It featured an air-cooled 49cc two-stroke variated engine and was discontinued in 1983. It was followed up by the Joy in April 1983, the Just in May of 1983, and the Road Fox in July of 1984. The Joy, the Just, and the Road Fox were also air-cooled 49cc two-stroke engines, but had two-speed automatic transmissions. The Joy and the Just were discontinued in 1984, and the Road Fox was discontinued for the 1985 model year. In North America, we got the Gyro NN50 in 1984 and the Gyro S in 1985 and 1986. They were nearly identical to the Just and the Road Fox. I have a hunch that these sold poorly because this was around the time ATCs and three-wheelers were in the news for being unstable and injuring people and were banned for sale for 10 years from 1987. And I think that played a large part into why we never saw the real heroes of the gyro lineup in North America. Speaking of, let's introduce them now. The Gyro X was introduced in 1982. It had a very utilitarian build with both racks in the front and the back of the scooter. Ideal for deliveries, these early models often had insulated delivery boxes attached to the rear. Early ones were air-cooled two-stroke 49cc automatic with CVT. It is the first of Honda's three-wheel lineup to carry the Gyro name. It is still being produced today, albeit it is a liquid-cooled 4-stroke version that was released in 2008. It is mostly unchanged look-wise, although there are a bunch of small differences. The Gyro Up was the middle child of this, and was introduced in 1985. It ditched the front rack and instead just has a rear platform similar to a truck. It has a 49cc air-cooled engine with CVT just like the X. Much like the X, these also were ideal for short-run hauling and deliveries in cities. Insulated boxes would also be attached to the rear deck of these. This model was discontinued in 2008, I think due to not being able to fit the 4-stroke engine package underneath the rear deck without major redesign, although it was re-released in 2021 as an electric-powered scooter. The youngest is the Gyro Canopy. On its release in 1990, it had the same air-cooled 2-stroke engine as the X, but it had a much larger leg screen with an integrated windscreen with wiper and a roof. This is heavily used for delivery and can be seen with many different companies' logos on it. I'm not certain, but I believe Honda offered these both with and without delivery boxes as standard. It is still produced today with the same 4-stroke engine as the X and also an electric version. There are also clone gyros. I've seen these around. They are based on like your standard GY6 variant engine, and they do lean, but I don't really know a whole lot about these to cover them. This is my 2007 Gyro Up. It's not fast. It tops out at around 50 to 55 kilometers an hour and goes 30 to 35 up very steep hills. It is rated at 5 horsepower from the factory. The Up is unique as it has a different suspension and engine layout compared to the Canopy or X, which are monoshock, but still has the same tilt function. It is small. Its front end is about the same size as a Honda Spree. If you're tall, you will have a tough time riding one of these. What's interesting about the Gyro is how it turns. To get into that, we can quickly cover how you turn a motorcycle. You lean and counter steer the direction you want to go. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert at this, but Mike's on Bikes is a great video with great visuals on this subject. This clip is from that. It kind of shows how this works, and I will have a link in the description to watch his video. The fatal flaw with standard trikes is you can't lean. You can throw your weight around and change the CG with your body, but you turn the handlebars in the direction you want to go and hang on. If you exceed that point, the trike tips over. This in part was the reason in 1988 an agreement was made by the top motorcycle and ATC manufacturers to ban the sales of traditional trikes. FortNine has a video that you can watch in the description that talks in depth about this. The Gyro solves that problem. You can have the stability of a trike, and when you want to push it, you can steer it like a motorcycle. At low speed, the first time I tried to drive this, I almost fell off. It's weird. Even the leaning is a bit odd if you are used to standard motorcycle steering. I cut some tight figure eights here to demonstrate how much it leans. Once the confidence builds that it's not going to tip over, you find yourself leaning aggressively into every turn. It's great. When I got this, the front tire was completely bald right to the edges. Now I understand why. It makes you into a MotoGP rider in everyday life. You can lean aggressively, but because of the 3 wheels, you have a lot of stability. I think that is the most exciting part of the performance of a gyro. You get to lean quite aggressively with a relatively low consequence. Other than that, it's a spree. I mean, both in terms of speed and feels of the controls and the size, albeit a bit heavier due to the engine and suspension design. So why talk about this? Well, it's an interesting story for one, and two, as I alluded to, I own one. It's neat, and I wanted to share it so that others can also see what the fuss is about. No, I haven't done a video on mine, and yes, I did mod it a bit, and I didn't make a video about that either, just because I didn't have time. Was really excited to get it, and now, well, I haven't ridden it in 4 weeks. I will get you up to speed possibly about my gyro and mod soon, though. This is a bit of a weird departure video for me just because I had a bunch of free time, so I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, take care.